Hey everyone, me Kevin here. Here's the latest on what happened today with stimulus talks, COVID, and lockdowns. Quick note, many of you have emailed me today requesting bundle coupon codes for the courses. A ton of you are existing course members as well, so thank you all for reaching out. If you haven't gotten a reply yet, you should have. Sorry about that. If I missed you, just email me again, kevin@meetkevin.com. Okay, first, by now you've probably already seen that New York City is shutting down its schools again. And there's a little bit more to this than just the headline. I listened to Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, hold a 50-minute press conference this morning. And I listened to all of it, and folks, he freaked out a little bit. He said, quote, "You will see a tremendous spike in COVID cases after Thanksgiving." He says Thanksgiving is a holiday when people come together. And if you don't have a real fear from coming together, especially with family, then people are going to come together, and that is going to lead to a devastating spike in cases 2 to 3 weeks after Thanksgiving. He said that people think home is safe, but he says that this is an illusion. He says home is actually very dangerous. And he cites Canada by saying that cases spiked in October after Canada's Thanksgiving. And we're likely in for a world of more hurt here in the United States after Thanksgiving, even with the vaccine on the horizon. This also comes as many researchers, experts, or even other countries argue that it's going to take a lot of time to actually get this vaccine out to everyone, especially when The Economist ran an article this morning saying that Canada is ordering 10 doses of the vaccines available for every person in their country, making some wonder if countries are starting to hoard the vaccines like we were hoarding toilet paper. CNBC also held an interview today, and the speaker argued that as a nation, we are creating a self-inflicted wound as we as individuals suffer from COVID, and Congress's leadership fails us by inadequately providing any kind of relief. This also comes as, just as an example, Manhattan's transit authority is cutting service across the board by 40 to 50%, and 9,000 workers are getting laid off. This is a signal of what's to come for the entire service sector throughout our country. So if you're in the service sector or you're investing in companies that relate to the service sector, stay tuned, because instead of a holiday hiring season, think of this as a potential holiday firing season. It's devastating. Joe Biden today spoke and said that spousal abuse and domestic violence are up significantly, and suicides are also up significantly, and things could get even worse due to the restrictions that we are currently seeing at the state levels throughout the country. It is also clear that at this point under Trump, we are unlikely to see a national lockdown. But that might not matter because every state individually is either locking down or considering lockdowns. Think of this so far. California strengthened their lockdown on Monday. Oregon, Washington, Michigan, and New Mexico are mostly closed. Illinois, Minnesota, Arizona, Colorado, Idaho, Louisiana, Illinois, Connecticut, Maine, and others are ramping up lockdowns. So the lockdowns are coming. They're just coming incrementally. It's like they're trying to eat us to death here. North Carolina, after all, had a 9.2% positivity rate. So for every 100 people who got tested, there were 9 people who were sick with COVID. This is a pretty high number. New York City is shutting down their schools because of a 3% positivity rate. North Carolina is 3x that. France has passed 2 million cases. We as a nation have passed 250,000 deaths, 50,000 of which came in the last 60 days alone. France went on to say that their lockdowns will have to remain in place for at least several more weeks. Cases in Sweden are surging. Now, fortunately, cases in Sweden are not surging as bad as they are in Italy and Spain for the sake of Sweden, but Sweden has definitely had a sharp U-turn from being a model for how to deal with COVID without masks, but now suffering their own substantial outbreak, much worse than its spring outbreak and much worse than its neighbors like Norway and Finland. In Germany, police in riot gear with water cannons are trying to control protesters and rioters who are upset over the country's new pandemic restrictions. And Boston's mayor tells college students, if you go home for Thanksgiving, stay home until spring. Joe Biden went on to say that we need a commander-in-chief because we are at war and we need COVID relief now, not later, but now. On stimulus, the Problem Solvers Caucus released their statement today on a bipartisan COVID bill, which is great timing because we just reviewed the Problem Solvers Caucus proposal this morning. So if you haven't seen this morning's video yet, go check that out. We broke down all of what was in their Problem Solvers Caucus bipartisan bill. But let's go ahead and look at their statement. Here's their statement. Problem Solvers Caucus co-chair statement on getting back to work toward a bipartisan COVID relief bill. Here we go. Election day has come and gone, and the American people, our families, small businesses, and local communities are still suffering. It has been 65 days since the Problem Solvers Caucus introduced our framework for a bipartisan relief package. Prior to the election, all parties at the negotiating table expressed their readiness to get a deal done, and yet the American people are still waiting to receive the relief they deserve. We cannot delay this any longer. After meeting with senators from both parties, this is important, after meeting with senators from both parties and administration officials earlier this week, it is clear that there is an opportunity to get a bipartisan, urgently needed assistance package to American families and small businesses. We need negotiators from both sides to come to the table willing to compromise and fully engage to get this deal across the finish line. This is pretty optimistic, the way this is worded. Now, I'm going to read into this, okay? We did not have them say something that I think they should have said. We had nothing here that was said about Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell. And that's not good because those are the leaders, right? Those are the people that are really going to be making the decisions. Now, it could be deemed that they're the negotiators, but the fact is they said here, after meeting with senators, not Senate leaders, and administration officials, not Trump, right? Not the big dogs, just individuals. Yeah, everybody might want a COVID bill. The reality is, until we get Trump saying, folks, get together. We're having a meeting at the White House tonight. Bring a beer, bring a wine, get your butts over here. We'll take out a notepad. It's not that hard, and we'll put something together. That's what kind of needs to happen here. Now, again, optimistic statement here. I like to see that they think we're close to the finish line. I personally really like their proposal, and I like that they're saying, look, both sides have to be willing to compromise. We went through the HEROES Act the other day, and there were a lot of things that I think you and I could go through, and we could line out a lot of stuff in that HEROES Act and go, that can wait, that can wait, that can wait, all right? And we could do the same thing to the Republicans' bill and go, well, we need to add a little bit here, okay? The skinny bill is like I used to call it the skeleton bill. We got to add some fat to it, okay? It's just not good the way it is. Now, the good news, though, is most individuals in Congress are on board with doing stimulus. Right now, we're just down to Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell. That's the good news. But the problem here is we thought that things would chill after the election, that political tensions would go down after the election, and that we would have a greater chance for stimulus after the election. Well, here's the thing. Because of this Georgia runoff coming up on January 5th, I personally believe we are seeing this political environment extend into January because this election is so contested and we have this January 5th runoff election coming up, basically enhancing divisions between Democrats and Republicans, aka the election ain't over. The fight is still going on. So who suffers again? We do. The people suffer again while they prance around and play party politics. Mark Meadows was asked, and there have been a lot of people who have asked this. Mark Meadows was asked, will Trump campaign in Georgia to try to get Republicans to maintain control of the Senate? Mark Meadows says, well, it depends on the president's official work schedule. Now, this is no surprise. Trump has already widely been expected basically to not campaign in Georgia because most individuals with relationships or relations to Trump suggest that it's unlikely for Trump to actually campaign on behalf of somebody else. And if by January 5th, it doesn't look like the outcome of that Senate race is going to have any impact on Donald Trump, they suggest it's unlikely for Donald Trump to actually go campaign. Now, it wouldn't surprise me still, despite this, to see some Trump rallies pop up in Georgia in early January, but we'll see. Nancy Pelosi this morning was upset. And she said, look, I'm trying to restart negotiations here. I sent a letter to the effect yesterday. Sure, just like Mitch McConnell yesterday went in front of everyone and said, hey, we invite Democrats to come back to the negotiating table. I don't understand when they will realize that trying to argue in the media is not the way to do it. It's kind of like going to the teacher and going, tell Jimmy to give me the pencil back. Like, did you ask Jimmy to give him the pencil back, or are you just shouting loud enough hoping that Jimmy hears you? So annoying. Nancy Pelosi did not seem optimistic that COVID relief would be done in lockstep with a government funding bill. In fact, when she was initially asked, do you think that stimulus could be part of a government funding bill that's due on December 11th, she initially responded with no, and then later said she does not think so. That stimulus or COVID relief has to be done separately from a government funding bill. Although it kind of would seem logical that you would just get both done at the same time because both are really needed. Nancy Pelosi and her majority leader in the House, Steny Hoyer, simply said that they remain hopeful and willing to negotiate, yet no negotiations are happening. Unfortunately, hope does not prevent people from dying and losing their livelihoods while this pandemic spreads like a wildfire. When Mark Meadows was asked if the White House is participating, Mark Meadows said, right now it's up to Congress to get a stimulus deal done, and says, quote, we haven't seen a real willingness by our House colleagues to look at getting a stimulus bill done. On the vaccines themselves, researchers, especially the FDA, will soon be able to scour hundreds of documents provided by Moderna and Pfizer. Moderna, by the way, started with mRNA trials by injecting lab rats with basically mRNA that would make lab rats glow in the dark. So they injected mRNA into lab rats' thighs to make them produce cells that would glow in the dark. And it worked. It's absolutely insane. The Financial Times had a big piece on them today. Honestly, it's almost worth doing my own video on that because it was so... Anywho, these next few weeks will likely lead to volatility in markets as researchers respond to allegations of side effects on these vaccines. The FDA is currently expected to approve these vaccines around December 8th and 9th, and the Trump administration is trying to push these vaccines out for availability within 24 hours of this. Well, there you have it, folks. Check out those programs down below. Use that Black Friday month coupon code. Make sure you get your life insurance in as little as 5 minutes. And folks, we'll see you again next time. Thanks. Bye.